Hey all, Sarah here. I am in Santa Barbara, California, as you can see from this awesome view. I've been doing a leadership training here, and we just talked a lot about this idea of yes and I wanted to make a video on it because it is, to me, probably the most powerful leadership tool that gets overlooked and or misunderstood. There's a way of, so oftentimes when somebody gives an idea that we're not open to, we have an internal reaction. We say, oh, my values are going to be compromised. Like if I say, does anyone have ideas on how to build a bridge? And someone says, let's build it out of Legos. And, my mind instantly starts going to, well, I don't want to buy a whole bunch of Legos. Like we've got like sticks right here. Why are those not good enough? And, I instantly have this like, no, we can't do this with Legos. There are all these reasons we can't do this with Legos. Which is valid, right? Like that's an actual valid objection. But in the other person, what happens, and like imagine being on the other side of that situation where the person is like, no, we can't do it out of Legos. We have to do it out of sticks. The reaction is defensiveness, maybe guilt, shame, shutdown, mistrust. So you've got this validity on both sides of the equation. No, I don't want to do it out of Legos, and shutdown, shame, guilt, anger, whatever. We often think that if we're a no to something, we have to be a no to like all of it. And there's this nuance of being a yes to a person, but not to an idea. So like saying basically Legos, that's a really interesting idea. I love that you're bringing an idea, and I'm curious like how we would budget for that. So that's one way of turning the impetus back on them. Like saying yes, you're not actually saying yes to the idea necessarily, but you're saying like, I'm open to the idea if you justify it. So that's one way. Like I'm kind of yes to an idea if it works out for me, which is actually pretty empowering if you're wanting to train leadership in your team. Make them think about how they would make it work and see if they've considered all the factors. Another way could be like, I love that you brought this idea and the enthusiasm behind it. Given that we have sticks here, I'd prefer to use those to start with. Is there an idea you have that would involve the sticks? So in that case, you're saying yes to the enthusiasm. You're saying yes to the fact that the person brought an idea, because there is something you want to say yes to in most situations. And in this case, it's like you want your team to bring ideas freely, or you want someone to like, if you ask, where should we go for dinner? And somebody says, I want to go for sushi. And you're not a yes to sushi. You could say, ugh, I hate sushi. Or you could say, sweet, I'm not into sushi, but do you have other ideas? Like that's a yes. And a lot of it's just about feeling and attitude. Assuming the other person is our collaborator in something rather than our enemy. And if the other person is really like seems against being your collaborator when they're just like bringing a no to everything else, then putting the agency on them to figure it out. Like, wow, it seems like all the suggestions I'm giving, you're not really a yes to. So I'm curious, like where it is that you'd like to go to dinner, or like what it is that you're wanting that has you be a no to these things. Another way of dealing with this kind of yes, no thing is to focus on these negotiation authors, Fisher and Ury, wrote this beautiful book called Getting to Yes. They talk about focusing on interests rather than positions. So if someone says, no, I don't want sushi, you might say, okay, like what is it about sushi that you don't like? And they could say, well, I just really don't like the smell of fish. Okay, now it's like the world is opened up of like lots of restaurants that don't smell like fish, rather than this like very specific not. And you can go, okay, like, is there another like place that you would like to go that doesn't smell like fish? Is that your main consideration? It's kind of a terrible example, but you get the idea. Like underneath what we want, there's often a motivation. There's often something we're protecting. Maybe it's you ask a friend to do a favor for you and they say, no, I can't. And you're like, oh, wow, I feel really hurt. And then you ask, okay, why can't you do that? And they say, I don't know if I could do that well enough to really meet what you want. And I don't want to let you down. Totally different motivation. Then whatever response you have, whether it's like, no, I really trust you, just do it your way. Or like, wow, okay, I hear that. Like, would you like to know what I'm valuing in it or what's most important to me so you can see if you can meet that? Like, all sorts of other reactions open up. And on the same level, if you say no to something, try to give your motivation proactively. Like, I don't want to use, Legos to build that bridge because I don't know if we have the budget. So is there something else we could do? So yes to the person, if not to the idea. If you say no, explain why. Focus on interest rather than positions, and have just an attitude towards the other person of collaboration rather than fear and defense. And continuously attempting to cultivate that creates incredibly powerful teams, because when we feel safe, we feel free to be creative. And if I think I'm going to bring an idea and it's going to get shot down, I'm going to stop bringing my ideas. If I think I'm going to bring myself and it's going to get blamed, shamed, kind of scorned, I'm going to stop bringing myself. So some thoughts on yes and. Curious what you think.